Welcome to the Edureka's online training, and today we have joined here for this Microsoft Azure certification track on Module 4. So by today we'll be discussing about SQL data storage in Azure. So it's all about the SQL database, how you can maintain security, how you're going to whitelist your IP, and what are the features that we have in SQL database. So those are the things that we will be covering today. And here we go with the objective. We will be classifying the different Azure SQL database tiers which we have, which means the plans that we have here. And we will work on creating an Azure SQL database. We will also work on configuring and performing the point-in-time recovery. We will be working with enabling geo-replication. And followed by that, we will go for importing and exporting your data and schema. We will also work on scaling the Azure SQL databases finally. So that's the overall objective that we have for module 4 today. And let's start with Azure SQL Database Services. So the Azure SQL Database Service is a relational database, as like what you had been working for all the traditional things. It is also the same that you have a SQL database here. And now Microsoft comes up with a cloud-based database, which is the same relational one that you had been using with the traditional things, and that we call it as Microsoft Azure SQL Database. So the Azure SQL Database here is capable of handling mission critical workloads. You put up huge workloads, it can sustain. It can give a elasticity. You can go up with pooling. It can sustain with more workloads. And it also comes up with a Microsoft SQL Server engine over here. So the SQL database here will help you to deliver a predictable performance at multiple service levels. It also gives you a dynamic scalability with no downtime. So it means that when you go for let's say you need a resiliency, or you need your workloads to be available, it should work with no sustainability problem or anything like that, then you can scale it across and there'll be no downtime when you do that scaling. So that's dynamic scaling that we do here. And you can also do your built-in business continuity. And we have the data protection where you can do dynamic data masking, you can configure alerts, you can process alerts. So all these things can be done over here. The advantages why we can use the Azure SQL Database service is that the SQL database capabilities allow you to focus on the rapid app development. So which means that you're just going to focus on the development and the infrastructure, setting up the SQL Server virtual machine, protecting them, allocating the precious time for, your precious time for setting up the infrastructure, the firewall, all these things will be taken care by Azure. So a SQL database is based on the SQL Server engine. The SQL database also supports you for SQL Server tools. So you will be having a SQL Server tools available here. You can find libraries, you can find APIs. So all those things will be supported over here since we have the support of SQL Server engine, which is based on the SQL database. Using these things, you can just go up with developing a new solution. You can move your existing SQL Server solutions towards Azure. You can also extend your existing SQL Server solutions towards Azure without any new skills that you want to learn or anything as such. So you can put up the hybrid way, or you can move your existing one. All these things can be done at an easy way of configuring. Here goes the SQL database characteristics that we have. So we have different characteristics which has been split up as predictable, high compatibility, simple management, etc. So predictable performance in the sense, let's say you have a unit of measurement here. For each and every database that you create, we come up with a metrics, we come up with a measurement unit, which we call it as DTUs. So you have a database throughput unit, and you can compare the expected service level for each and every performance tier that is offered in the SQL database service. So you can use a consistent unit, like let's say you will set up the DTUs, you will say it's a basic plan, it's a standard plan that you're going to use, and you need to make sure how many DTUs will be allocated for a basic plan, how many will be allocated for a free one. So those things you need to check it. And this will provide you the consistent and the predictable performance which allows you to select a tier that will match the application's workloads when the real world applicants, like let's say when a user is going to hit a server and when there are more number of users who are going to hit the server and the utilization goes higher, in that case how you're going to manage the workload. So you need to make sense about all those things over here. The next comes your high compatibility. The compatibility is the tabular data stream where the endpoint is provided for each logical server that is created in the SQL database service. So you will come up with the endpoint here and you can use the existing SQL client applications and the tools with the SQL database by using the endpoint which comes up here. And that endpoint, we call it as tabular data stream. Simple management is where you can manage the database by using the REST APIs, your Azure portal, your PowerShell, your SQL Server Management Studio, your CLI environments which are available. So you have plenty of things where you can just manage the database which is going to be deployed on Azure. Here we go up with a SQL database logical server. The SQL database logical server will act as a central administrative point which can communicate with any databases and any number of databases. Any database in the sense I am speaking about the Azure SQL database. You can have any number of Azure SQL database and you can communicate with them. Specifically, the SQL database service makes no guarantees regarding the location of the database in relation to their local servers and exposes no instance level access or features over here. So this means that you have no guarantee that the SQL database service, it will make sure that the SQL logical server will ensure that the data will be available irrespective of the environment that you're going to put it across. So let's say if the SQL database logical server is there in Southeast Asia and you guys are from India, still it can work for it. And in SQL database, a server is a logical construct that is distinct from a SQL server instance that you may be familiar with in the on-premise world. So it means that the SQL database, what you're going to deploy here is moreover the same with all the queries that you write or whatever the traditional things that you have set up there, setting up the primary key, setting up the filtration. So all those things are going to be the same over here at the Azure SQL database also. And here we have a note that we'll be using a T-SQL here. I hope you guys should know T-SQL if you had been working with database. The T-SQL is again a programming where it works with the structured query language, which is your SQL, and it takes control over the transaction control, your exception, your error handling, the variables that you're declaring, etc. So that's T-SQL that we will be using here. And here we have a difference between the SQL database and the SQL Server. The SQL database is said to be a PaaS one, whereas your SQL Server is said to be a virtual machine, which is IaaS. So a SQL database that you have here, you could see here when you put it on administration at a on-premise, okay, it's going to when you put it on a physical which is on premise, it is going to have more of utilization and you need to manage it when you put it on the on premise. So you should have a admin, you should maintain the security. So all those things should be taken care by you when you put it on physical, which is on premise, and that goes up with a higher in cost. When you speak about the SQL Server, which is a private cloud virtual machine and appliance, there it goes less in cost compared to the physical one. And then we have the infrastructure service where you come up with tools like the SQL Server Management Studio that you put your individual virtual machine that can work for the SQL database. And finally, we have the PaaS and the SaaS structure here, which combines the hybrid environment and you give up the Azure SQL database with a SQL Server which is virtualized over here. And that comes up with a less cost. So this makes your administration to be less Azure takes care of the security, and you're going to work just on the development of the database part. Here we have the SQL Server on Azure virtual machines. The SQL Server on Azure virtual machines falls into the industry category as infrastructure as a service, and it allows you to run SQL Server inside a virtual machine in the cloud. So that says that you have a SQL Server, you have a virtual machine which is running as a IaaS, you're going to configure the machine, and that will take care of the database with the connections and everything, and that's completely on IaaS. Similar to the SQL database, it is built on standardized hardware that is owned, hosted, and it is maintained by your Microsoft here. So this is like almost that we say that you put up a SQL database on the SQL server which you have configured, and that will be again a IaaS virtual machine. When using a SQL server on a VM, you can either pay as you go for a SQL server license, or you can even go with a license which you have already owned. So you can go with anything as you need, and you can also easily scale up and scale down even when you put up a virtual machine, and you can just stop the VM when you say that you're not going to use it. In addition, you can also use SQL Server in a virtual machine to develop and to test the traditional SQL Server applications. Here goes the SQL database tiers that we have. So you have tiers which are as basic, standard, premium, and premium errors. So these are the different tiers that we have, and this speaks about the database options with the DTUs. So you need to make sense about what each and every of these tiers do. You need to configure this tier when you put up a database, which will handle the workloads. Either it is depends upon the business scenario. It's going to be a smaller one or it's going to be a huge one as such. The higher performance levels provide additional resources which are designed to deliver increasingly higher throughput over here. You can also do the scalability like changing the service tier options and the performance level whenever you need here, and that will not have any downtime. The SLA that you have here is an uptime of 99.9%, which allows you to focus on your business continuity, and the security features, all these things will be taken care by Azure, as we have different sort of tiers which has been configured here, as you have basic, standard, and premium, and the billing will be done based on the hourly basis over here. Here we have the service tier, the basic tier, standard tier, and premium tier with the premium RS. The basic tier is where it is best suited for a small database supporting typically one single active operation at a given time. Let me put these things on simple way. When you use a basic tier, you're going to use it for small scale application. You're going to use it for testing application, which is again with a small workload. Then you go for a basic tier. When you speak about the standard tier, the cloud applications is going to have low to the medium IO performance requirement. And when you work on a web application or a work group, then we will go for the standard tier. Let's say you're going to put up some high use of concurrent workloads and you have more number of people who will be utilizing the Azure SQL database. In those mission critical workloads for the applications, you should go for premium tier, and that processes a high transactional volume. The next premium RS is where it is used for testing your high performance workloads or analytical workloads like big data or anything like that. And there we use this premium RS. This has been designed for IO intensive workloads where you have the highest availability guarantees. Here you have the Azure SQL single database. You should be able to find the DTUs which we have represented down and the cost that we have here. So when you say basic, you're going to pay $5 and the DTUs that you will be getting is 5. As it goes, you have standard where you get 10 to up to S3 you get 100 DTUs, and you have premium, and you have the maximum of premium RS that is available here. It is same like in your Azure App Service, you will be using basic, free, shared, standard, premium, isolated. Same like that, here we have the service tiers. Before going to this demo of creating an Azure SQL database, I want you guys to make sense about the eDTU limitations on Azure. So you can go for this link, I can share you this link, and you should be able to make sense about the basic service tier and how it supports. Speaking about the implementation part, you need to know this before you deploy it. So the basic service tier comes up with a maximum DTU of 5, and this means that it can allow maximum concurrent workers of 30 and maximum concurrent session up to 300. So when it reaches the limit, then the connection will not die, but it will wait until a user is going to come out. So that's why we use this service tiers. As it goes, it's going to be higher for your storage. So we have storage which is 2 GB, and here we have a storage which comes up with 250. So it depends that you have S0, you have S1, you have S2. So it depends on what you're going to use here. I'll just share this link for your reference. I'll put it on the chat panel. You can make sense when you find time here. Well, any questions until this before we go to the demo? Hey guys, any questions? Cool. Thanks, Shubhendu. Thanks for responding. So here we go for the demo of creating an Azure SQL database. So you need to go for the Azure portal. You have to log in there. You can find SQL database under databases, and you need to give a database name followed by the subscription that you're going to use. As usual, you're going to put up a resource group for this. You will select a source. You have a template available, or you can even go with a blank one, or you can even use an existing one that you take the data from there. You need to configure a server here, and you can put up the elastic pooling. So when it goes with huge workloads of utilization, then the pooling will help you to combine together, pool together, and it can sustain for the workloads. And you will get the pricing tier followed by that. So here we go. We are creating a server here. You should remember the credentials that you're going to give. And then you can do the pooling over here. And we have the collation finally, where you will be using the rules that are defined by Azure to sort and to compare the data. So once when you go up with this collation, there will be a default one. You cannot change it again. So that you should have on your mind. Here goes the database which will get deployed. And then you can configure the server level firewall rule. Let me go for this and I will deploy this, and you can also try the same once after I complete it. Let's go for the Azure portal and I will sign into my account here. Well, let's check with the SMS. Well, so there we go. And here, let's create a database. I'll click on create a resource. You can find we have database here. You can go for database and you can click on SQL database. And here I will give the name. Let's give the name as, say for example, I will give as CodeSizzler DB. And let's create a resource group. I'll create a resource group as module 4-RG. And as I told you, you can select the source here, either a blank database or a template, or you can even call it from the backup. Let's create a blank DB here. You can go for the server and you can create a new server. I hope you can make sense that the server location is blocked. So wherever you put up this particular thing, it's going to be the same location where you'll be having the server also. This is not a virtual machine. This is a server for connectivity with your SQL database. Okay. So let's create this. I'll name it as CodeSizzler server. And let's give the username and password. Let's click on select to get it selected. And you can find we have pooling here. You can click on create new. You can click on elastic database. So here you're going to do pooling. When it goes more in utilization, then you will be having another database which is going to share among, and it's going to pool among with the storage, and it will be working with the multiple databases for the workloads that it gets added up. So let's say I will give CodeSizzler pool, and you can fix the pooling here. See, we have the DTUs. You can say it's a basic one, and I will say I need. Can you find this? We have data size which is 4.88 GB, and we have DTUs, 50 DTUs, and it's going to cost you 4,958 bucks for an hour. Well, so let's go for the database settings, and if you need, you can also remove this DTUs. You can cut short this DTUs over here. Let's just go for the basic one, and you can click on apply. You can click on select the DTU, the pool gets added up. And as I told you, you have a collection here. Let's click on pin to dashboard and let's click on create. So there goes your database, which gets created now. It's getting validated. Any questions until it gets deployed, guys? Hey Ashish, I could see people here, the old guys. Ashish is there, Shuvendu, hi. DTU, I need to study a little bit. Hey Shuvendu. Meanwhile, I can brief you. Let's make it. I hope this should help you across. DTU is nothing but your database. Okay, it's your database transaction units, and you can find DTU comes up with different service plans. Okay, you have basic plan, you have standard service, you have premium, and you should have premium RS. Okay, so when you say DTU, it's going to be plans. Okay, in app service, you say app service plan, right? Same like that in DTU, you will say DTU plans, and you're going to specify the plan which you're going to use. Either it's going to be a basic one, it's going to be a standard one, as such. And when you say basic, you're going to fix the DTUs. I mean, the that will be already defined by default by Azure, and you're just going to select it there. You will say that basic, and the basic will have up to 5 DTUs. Okay, 5 DTUs in the sense it speaks about how many concurrent users can log into a database, how many sessions it can sustain with. Okay, those things all gets added up with the DTUs. Are you clear, Shubhendu? Yes. Cool then. Any other questions? That's fine, Shubhendu. Any other questions, guys? Well, so there goes the database which has been deployed. And well, so here you should find we have the server name which we configured, and you have the pricing tier we have configured with elasticity. Okay, and you can find the DTU percentage here, how much it's getting utilized. Okay, so those things you can make sense over here. Let's go. Let's work on it. Okay, as of now, I'll go for the server level firewall rule, and then I'll come back to this. So the next one that we have here is server level firewall rule. Once when you put up a database, you cannot access the database unless the IP address is going to be whitelisted. So you will define the whitelisting the IP address, and only from that IP address you can access the database. So that we call it as server level firewall. The server level firewall will prevent the external applications and the tools from connecting towards the server or communicating with the database which are available on the server. And for each and every server, you can put up to 5 database towards it. You can allow the definition of permissions even based on originating the IP address ranges. And once when you set the IP address, you can just communicate with it. Here goes the server level firewall rules. This rule will enable the client to access the SQL Server, and you can communicate with the database. The rules which will be allocated over here will be stored in the master database, and this rule can be configured either by using the Azure portal, or you can even use T-SQL statements. And to create a server level firewall rule, you can go up with the Azure portal, or you can even go with the PowerShell. And you should always make sure that you are the owner of the account that you are using across. Here you have an architecture which speaks about how you can connect from the internet using the server level firewall. So you have an internet here, and you can find we have Azure also. You will be providing a database level firewall rules, and when you ping a request, it goes for the database level firewall rules. When it gets accepted, it gets diverted towards the server level firewall rules, and then you will access the database. So it depends upon the rules what you have set for the client IP. And you can also communicate with the master database over here. And if it's not going to work with the client IP address range, then the connection will be withdrawn from the server level firewall rule. The IP address of the request can be either one of the range, or you can even define multiple address range from where it gets originated. So those things you need to define it over here. The next from Azure is where you allow the applications from Azure to connect with the SQL Server. Let's say you have a web application and you want to connect with Azure SQL Database. from the Azure web app, then you can use it across. When an application from Azure attempts to connect to your database server, the firewall will verify the Azure connections which are allowed. A firewall setting with starting and ending address will be equal to 0.0.0.0, which indicates the connections. If the connections attempt is not allowed, the request will not allow the SQL database to be accessed. To create a server level firewall rule, you can just go to your Azure portal. You can click on set server firewall rule and you can add it across. So I'll go here. I can show you. You have the set server firewall rule here. You can click on this and you can say add a client IP. See, we are getting a start IP and the end IP address range, moreover the same. And you can click on save, which will save the IP. So this machine now, the machine which we are using right now, is going to be reserved and you can access from this machine right now for the database. Are you clear, guys? Any questions? Cool. Thanks for responding, Svendu. Before going to the next one, please go ahead and try working on the same. Try deploying it and let me know if you have any questions, please. Here we get the access both for server and database, right? Yes, you're right, Shuvendu. Can you please once again repeat for SQL database creation in Azure? Hi, Rakesh. Sure, I will do that. But please make sure that you follow it when I do it by the first time itself, okay? Because it will kill the flow that we are going across. You can go for create a resource and you have database here. You can go for SQL database and configure the things here, okay? I will name it here once again DB. I'll put it on the same resource group. You can select the source. It's going to be a blank one. You can create a new server by clicking on create new. You need to give the server name, credentials, all these things here. And then you can configure the elasticity here. So you can configure the pooling, give yes, and configure the pooling here. Okay. Name the pooling there and then just click on create to get it created. Are you clear, Rakesh? Hey Rakesh, are you there? Can we go for the next? Okay, thanks, Shuvendra. The next one that we have here is we have done with all these things. You can also use the T-SQL statements to add the IP address. So you can find it. See, we have T-SQL statements, which it says that you're going to set the database firewall rule for the DB name with the start IP address and the end IP address that you have here. So that will add the address. You can go to the tools on the query editor and you can add it up. Okay. The next one is connecting the Azure SQL database using SQL Server Management Studio. So to perform this, you need to ensure that you have a SQL Server Management Studio which is installed on your machine. The SQL Server Management Studio, in short, which is called as SSMS, it's an integrated environment for managing any SQL infrastructure on your Azure. So you can just go up with the SSMS, which provides the tools to configure, to monitor, and to administer your instances of SQL from wherever you deploy it. So it's like a particular specific tool that you have for the SQL database. And the SSMS provides the tools to deploy, monitor, and to upgrade the database tiers and the components like your database, your data warehousing for your application, etc. So this is a one important tool which is like a free of charge from Microsoft, which helps you on development purpose. So here we don't have, I don't think even you guys have a SQL Server Management Studio which is installed on your machine. So we will put up a infrastructure, we will put up a virtual machine, and from there we can connect for the SQL database. So let's go for the Azure portal. You can click on create a resource and you can search for SQL Server Management Studio. So when you search this, you should find we have free license. I hope you can find it on the screen. We have free license SQL Server 2016 Service Pack 1 Developer on Windows Server 2016. I repeat, you have free license SQL Server 2016 Service Pack 1 Developer on Windows Server 2016. So go here and click on create and put up this infrastructure now. So you can give the name. Let's give the name as CodeSizzler SQL. Let's use a SQL, solid state drive, and I'll set a username and password. Please do remember the username and password for this. I'll put it on the same resource group. It's module 4. Let's click on OK to get it deployed. So here it asks for the size. So this is a recent change that we have with Azure. They have come up with the disk that it supports, the cost factor that we have, all those things in a detailed way. That's impressive that we have here. So you can select your size from here. So you have size for solid state drives. You can scroll down, you can find ds1 underscore v2. Okay, go for this one, ds1 underscore v2, click on select. And then next you have the settings. I hope you guys remember you were configuring all these things when you were working on the infrastructure part, which is your virtual machine. So let's go ahead and I will just click on OK for this. Oh, it says public inbound port. I will say I need a 1433, which is Microsoft SQL. Cool. So let's click on OK. And settings, it's 1433, which we have configured. And let's click on OK again for the SQL Server settings. Or if you need, you can even find it that you can enable the SQL authentication here. Okay. So let's click on OK. And finally, we get this validation. You can click on create to get it created. I hope we have some question which has been written. Hi Shubhendu. Can I put Visual Studio? What's the full question that you have written? Can I put Visual Studio and SQL Server Management Studio on same server? Shubhendu, you can do that. Okay. But I hope you remember that previously we created Visual Studio with Windows 10. That's different. That's a lab VM. And SQL Server Management Studio is a different one, which is on Windows Server. Okay. So this will take a long time for installation. Maybe for your reference later, you can do that. But Visual Studio should be available on the server machine. SQL Server cannot be added up on Windows 10. Okay, so make sure that you put it on server machine, which is Windows Server itself for both the components. Okay, but it will take a long time. So this deployment should take a long time. Let's wait for it. Cool, Shivindu. Any other questions? Well, please go ahead and try deploying it. It will take a bit long time. What server type should I select? Server type, I told you, no, I can show you here, Shivindu. It has free license that you will have there. SQL Server Management Studio with Windows Server 2008 should be there. This one, okay, sorry, it is 2016. Free license with 2016, developer one. Is that okay? Are you able to find the screen? The fourth one, free license SQL Server 2016, Service Pack 1. Well, size of the disk, please go for DS1 underscore V2. DS1 underscore V2. DS1 underscore V2. And you use a solid state drive, please. Outbound IP rule, give it us 1433, Shubhendu. Can we have a break for some 10 minutes until it gets deployed, guys? Yeah, hope that makes sense. So let's join by 10 minutes. Yeah, cool. Hi Sujita, I'm here. We were there for a short break. Yeah, tell me please. Can I be muted? You're already at muted. Oh, okay, fine. Yeah. Hi Sujita, tell me.
Hi. Basically, I had a question.
Uh,
I suppose we are in break. I lost the connectivity. That is why.
no problem. Fine.
Uh,
Tell me.
is it a break time or?
No, no, no. Come on, tell me.
Okay. I had created few VMs,
Okay.
and I tried to log into that, but I'm not able to open them. It says that remote
Desktop.
server not available. Yeah,
Yeah. Uh,
and
yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I posted that to the support group,
Hmm.
and I believe they have requested some more additional information.
Mm-hmm.
Should I recreate one or what is the issue? That is my question.
It's not about recreating. It's actually that
Mm-hmm,
your network, what you're using, would be with a port block. I mean, if you're using some corporate network or something like that, they would have a port
mm-hmm.
block. They'll be disabling the port address, which is 3389. So if that address is blocked, then you will not be able to connect for the virtual machine. That address should be opened. So that should be the issue,
Okay.
nothing else.
So how do I go about like what do I do?
No, you will not be able to do that. I mean, only your network admin can do that. You
Mm-hmm.
cannot do that. You don't have the complete control over that. So the other option is that if you have some mobile data or something, you can try. It will get connected.
Okay, so from mobile data, I should try
Yeah.
connecting to that remote desktop.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yes. That will work. Or the
Okay,
another
okay.
option is that you should bypass the network. Maybe you can use 443 or something like that. You can bypass the network and then you can use it. But I don't think those things you need to do that. You can just go with the mobile data and you can connect with the help of that.
Okay. And one more question, like if I do a hotspot from my mobile data,
Mhm.
through that also can I connect? I disconnect from the office network and I do a hotspot.
No, no, no. Down the line, it's your office network, right? It's not a private network, isn't it? It's your office one.
I mean, I wouldn't be connecting to VPN and anything. So if I do a hotspot, should I be able to do connect it?
No, Shruti, if I'm not wrong, the mobile data which you're using belongs
Hmm.
to the network, I mean your mobile network, or it belongs to your corporate network. How you
It
would
belongs
like
to
it.
my mobile network, the
Then you
mobile
can do it.
data.
Then you can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, fine.
yeah.
I'll try with the hotspot and do it because there are times when during lunchtime we practice some things, and
Uh-huh.
that is when I'm running into issues. Okay, sure.
Sure,
Thank
sure.
you.
Do let me know if you have any issues. I can help you out.
Sure, sure. Thank you.
Okay, then. Yeah, bye. Well, any other questions? Shwindo, are you back? And others? Ashish, Jebraj. Yeah, cool. Let's go ahead and yeah, here you should find we have the server machine which has been deployed. Okay, so this is the server machine which we have, and it holds a SQL Server Management Studio. And to connect with that, you can just go for copying this IP address. I mean, you can click on connect, you will get the RDP, and you can connect with that. I'll use the Microsoft Remote Desktop. So I'll click on new, and if I'm not wrong, the name is CodeSizzler SQL. Oh, I guess we have a problem with port here. Okay, so here I have a port issue. Okay, I'm here at on-site. So I have a port issue here. Maybe you guys can try with this. Click on connect, and once when you connect it, please go ahead, open your SQL Server Management Studio. You should find connect to server. There you give the SQL Server credentials, and you can connect to the database. Is that okay? Guys, are you there? Okay, deployment still in progress. So just try with that, please. Okay, once after you're connecting it, maybe you can take it as offline. You can try connecting it and go for the. It's very simple. That I hope you should have already worked. You can go for the tools. You will have the Object Explorer. You can click on connect and you can connect to the server. Okay. Maybe I will send a screenshot of the document for this. That will help you out. Okay, and I will share the documentation for SQL database also for you guys. Don't worry. By the end, I will share the documentation. The next we have here is the SQL Server Management Studio. So the SQL Server Management Studio is where you can get the database, the one which you were speaking about. You can connect for the login. You have configure the firewall, and then you can work on it. The next is from Visual Studio. You can connect for the SQL database. So you guys know about Visual Studio, but still it's an introduction that we have here. Your Visual Studio helps you to work with the SQL DB as well, and you can connect with the SQL Server also. You can use the Server Explorer pane and you can click on connect to connect with the SQL database. And you can give the Server Explorer name there, and you need to whitelist the IP address there, and then you can connect for the Visual Studio with the database, and you can write the queries, you can create your DB, you can configure things, right? So you can do all those things. Let me try this. Let me see if this is getting connected. So I will go for Lab VM Edureka. Here I have Visual Studio. So I will go here and I will see if I'm able to connect. Okay, let me copy this IP. Okay, so let's copy this IP, and the name of the VM is Lab VM Edureka. I hope it is already configured. Yeah, let's check the IP alone. Okay, let's try connecting. Oh, so that's the problem. I have a connection issue. I mean, the remote desktop cannot be connected due to the port issues here. So go ahead and you would be having Visual Studio. Okay, you can go for Visual Studio and you will be able to find the. See, we have SQL Server Object Explorer. You can click on View and you will be having SQL Server Object Explorer. There you can click on Connect and you can connect for the SQL Server authentication, where you can connect for the SQL database, you can write the queries, and you can create the DB here. I mean, you can create the columns, you can add data. So those things can be done from here. Is that okay? Any questions? Same as we do for on-premise. Yeah, exactly, Shivindu. The same. Whatever you have at the on-premise, it is same. You can do the import, you can do the export. All those things are same. I'll share the document, Shivindu. Let me complete this. By the end of the session, I will share the document. Okay, cool. The next comes your business continuity and disaster recovery in Azure. So the business continuity and the disaster recovery is where it helps you by the time of let's say some disruptive events that happens, and if there are any chances that your data gets lost or anything like that, then you should make sense about how Azure ensures that you can get the data back. So those things is where we go up with business continuity and disaster recovery. The SQL database will provide several business continuity features, including automated backups and optional database replication. So either you can replicate it on a geo way, or you can even set a backup policy and it can take a backup by each and every moment of time which you have configured. Each of the capabilities has different characteristics, and you will come up with an estimated recovery time and a potential data loss for recent transactions. Whenever you set up a geo replication, you will also come up with a recovery point objective, which will take care of the disruptive event on recovering after the event has occurred, and it can tolerate losing the data whenever it happens. And when the geo replication happens, it depends on the data that it takes a time for replication, and it's all a matter of that it happens with the milliseconds. Here you go with a tier-wise performance for the capabilities. So when you go for a basic tier, the point-in-time restore from the backup will take 7 days, I mean within 7 days to perform it. The standard tier will take within 35 days to restore it. The premium tier will also take within 35 days for the same. The geo restore from geo replicated backups will take the estimated recovery time less than 12 hours and the recovery point of time within less than 1 hour. And that's moreover the same for other plans as well. The restore from Azure Backup Vault, where you create a OMS, and from there, if you want to take a backup, then you will come up with less than 12 hours to do the same, and that's the same with other tiers as well. And you have the active geo replication also. As I told you, it's less than 30 seconds. It could be a matter of even micro milliseconds when it goes with small workloads. The point-in-time recovery comes up with the Azure SQL Database, where it helps you to restore a database to a previous point in time whenever there is a disruptive which happens. So imagine you have accidentally deleted a table and you need to recover that table. So in that case, you will use this previous point in time. The Azure SQL Database will allow you to go back to any point in time within the last 35 days that you have, and you can restore the point in time to the new database. You can also use this database to recover your deleted data. You can restore the database to a different point in time, and you can use the same to connect with the applications or the retention period that you have. So you can find the figure here. You have a point of time and you have a table which has been deleted. You can recover from the previous point of time which you have. So to perform this perform the point in time, you can go to the overview blade on the SQL database. You can select the database and you can click on restore. There you will configure the restore point and you can get the data to be back. Let's go ahead and we will try the same. You can go for the database here. So this is a DB which I deployed, CodeSizzler DB. And we have restore here. You can click on restore. We can select source. So we can say point in time. It creates a DB name. You give the DB details with the restore point here. The server has been already taken up. If you need, you can configure the Elastic Database pool and you can click on pin to dashboard and OK, which will create the point in time now. So there it goes. Now when you need a data to be recovered, you can recover from this point in time. Are you able to follow? Folks, are you there? Hey, yeah, Shivendu. Thanks for responding. Cool. So let's wait until it gets done, and next we'll go for the geo replication. Okay, it gets restored. Let's go for. I hope you're done with this, right? It's under deployment. Cool. So let's go for the next one, which is geo replication. Okay. So I can go here. I will just brief you guys about the geo replication, then I will work on it. So the geo replication is where you're going to configure up to 4 readable secondary databases in the same or even different data center regions that you have. So you can put up the secondary database which are available for querying and for failover in case of a data center outage, and you can connect with the primary database. The failover must be initiated manually by the application of the user. After the failover, the new primary has a different connection endpoint. Now I will tell you in simple means. Consider you have a primary data center region and you have a database which has been deployed there. Let's consider some disaster recovery happens at the primary data center region. What you can do is that you can configure geo-replication, and whenever some fault tolerance or when something happens on the primary data center region, the request will be routed towards the secondary data center region, and once when it finds the primary center is back, then your connection will be rolled back. Or even when the distribution of the traffic, when it gets more number of workloads, then it distributes the traffic between the primary and the secondary region, and the secondary region can perform only read only, whereas the primary can perform both read and write. This can be done with a matter of seconds. You can just go for the Azure SQL Database. You can configure the geo replication over there. You do have something called auto failover group, which is designed to automatically manage the geo replication relationship. So as of now, it's under preview, and as of now, you need to do it manually, whereas the auto failover group will work automatically when you have some sort of tolerance or when some sort of disruptive which happens at the primary data center region. The customer will gain the ability to automatically recover the databases in the secondary region when there is a regional failure, or let's say the SQL database service availability is not there. You have unplanned maintenance which is going on, and you also have the failover groups which supports the replication of all database in the group to only one secondary server in the different region. You have a scenario here which can brief you about the active geo replication. If you are using active geo replication and for any reason your primary database fails or simply needs to be taken offline, you can initiate failover to any of your secondary database. When failover is activated to one of the secondary database, all other secondaries are automatically linked to the new primary. In addition to the disaster recovery, the active geo-replication can be used for database migration. So when something happens for any of the database, you're going to use this geo-replication. And that works with upgrades, that works with database migration, etc. These are the capabilities that you have for the geo-replication. It can help you with automatic asynchronous replication. It can work with readable secondary databases. It can work with multiple readable secondaries. It also has support of database pooling. You have configurable performance levels of the secondary database. You also have the rollback access control, which is user controlled failover and failback. You can you can keep the credentials and firewall rules in synchronized. And for the geo replication, Microsoft recommends you to do with the pad regions. So for each and every data center region across the globe, we have paired data center regions and you can pair it over there. An Azure geography is a defined area of the world that contains at least one Azure regions and you will have the pair up data center region for each and everything. So I will show you that. You can go for the demo for enabling it. You need to go for geo replication on the SQL database and from there you can select the dot of the data center region. You can configure that with the credentials, with the server, the secondary type, the database pooling that you're going to use, the pricing tier, and then it will get replicated. Let's go ahead and I will try the same. So we shall go for this SQL database and you can scroll down, you can find geo replication here. So go for this geo replication and okay, yeah. So here you can find I'm there at Southeast Asia and from there you can move it towards any data center region. Let's say I will move it for South India. Okay. So you can scroll down. Oh, it is saying the paired up regions. It's a primary region and the target regions can be paired of anything. I hope you can find we have a blue dot there. Let's select the regions. I will say I need to pair it up with Southeast Asia itself, the same data center region, or you can even put it on some other data center region. Let's say we will go for South Central US. And let's configure the server. I don't have any server here, so I need to configure a new server. I'll name the server as CodeSizzler secondary server. Let's click on select. Well, let's spin to the dashboard and we'll click on OK. So you can scroll up, you can find the replication gets happened now. Okay, so that's geo replication. Now you have a primary center and you have secondary center. The blue color which you can find here is the paired up region. It's a recommended region. Okay, are you clear? Any questions, guys? Hey folks, are you there? Okay. Hi Shivindu. Yeah, it's just readable. The secondary one will be only with readable. Once when it's configured, you should find it here. You should get it as readable. Any other questions? This comes with the same cost. Yeah, Chakraj. I mean, cost is different. You need to pay separately for the primary one, and for the secondary one, you need to pay separately. You should have seen the primary pricing tier there. Hi, Shivendu. EDTU should be configured. I don't think you need it. It just makes sense about geo replication. You no need to configure it for secondary one. Why do you waste money for that? How autosync group to be created between primary and the secondary one? We have an option called auto synchronizing here, Rakesh. It's under preview, and that will help you to get configured with the primary and the secondary one. Okay, let me complete the topics for this first, and I will share you the links. Okay, with help of that, you can make sense. Is that okay? Cool. Hi, Shivendu. Can we choose multiple geo replications? No, you cannot go up with multiple geo replications. I don't think so. Once when you configure it, it's done. Oh, they give you the secondary. Yeah, they support it. You can do that, Shwendu. They give it. I haven't tried it, of course, but you can. You can have secondary, multiple secondary things. See, it's allowing you. You can select West US and it's allowing you to configure. Okay, cool then. Well, the next is we go up with this failover. Okay, you can go for any secondary data center region. You can commit a failover, and then you should find it gets listed out for the primary data center so that you can perform your once when it is done you can click here and you can say that force failover here. Okay, so it says once when you force a failover, the old primary CodeSizzler DB will automatically become the new secondary if it is offline. So you can click on yes, which will make up a force failover, and then you will be having the Southeast Asia alone which will be working for you. Are you clear, guys? So that's the secondary failover. You get a confirmation window and it stops the replication when it gets failed. The next comes your import and exporting the data and schema. The importing and the exporting the data schema can be done with the data using a backpack file, and that will help you to migrate from one platform to another platform. The backpack file will be a zip file which you will be getting as an extension, and it contains the metadata and the data from the SQL Server database. The backpack file can be imported from the Azure Blob Storage or even from the local storage which you have it at the on-premise environment. And you can put up the backup backpack file on the Azure storage using Azure portal here. So the backpack file is nothing but the backup that you're going to perform. So to perform a demo of it, you can just go for the export. You can export the database towards any storage account. And then when you create a database, you can just try importing it. So it's there all available on the cloud itself. So you put up this, it gets exported towards a storage account, right? And then when you create a database, you can set import. So we go here and you can click import database and you can import it. So let's go ahead and we will try the same. You can go for the DB and in the database, you can find we have export. Click on export. You have a DB name here. You can configure the storage. Let's go for this storage account. Let's create a container. I'll name the container as module 4. What it says. Okay. So let's give this. I'll make it as a blob and let's click on OK. So you can find it here. We are creating a blob and we will put up here. You can click on select and you can set the password here. Not it's setting up, it's you need to give for acknowledgement. So you can give the password for the server. This service operation SQL Server. Okay, it might be because it's not a premium disk. Let's create a disk here. I'll create a storage account. So let's click on create and I've named the account as CodeSizzler 4 Premium 1 and I'll put it on the same resource group which is module 4. Let's spin to the dashboard and create it. Well, so I have a storage account here. Now let me try with the database. Let's go here and I will export it with the backpack file. Let's call the storage account. Oh, it's there at Southeast Asia. It's there. Mm-hmm. Oh, premium is not supported here. Okay. CodeSizzler. Let's click on OK and we shall try here. Okay, so there it goes. Hi Shwendu. The difference between the private blob and the container is the container allows you to access the entire blobs which will be available inside the container. Blob is for the specific blob alone that you have the access, okay, inside the container. And private is where you don't have any access, no anonymous access can be given. Okay, so that's private. We will speak about that in detail when we go for storage. Okay, I repeat again, container is for the entire blobs which are available on the container. Blob is for individual blobs. Private is no anonymous access. Okay, right. So now we have exported it. You can go for the server now, the SQL server which we have created. I should find it here. I have it as CodeSizzler server. Right. So there I go, and I'll click on import database, and you can go for the storage where you have it across. See, we should have a backpack file here, and you can import it. You can click on select, and you can import the database. Okay, you can give the pricing tiers all here. I'll go for basic, and let's click on apply. Let's give the password again to import it. So now we are importing it on the cloud. I hope you should have done this on-premise with SQL Server Management Studio. But here you can also do the same using storage. Okay. Any questions on importing and exporting the data schema? I missed importing. Sorry. Hi Shivindu. Importing can be done from the SQL Server. Okay. So go for SQL Server. Go for all resource, search for the server which you created. Okay, my server name is CodeSizzler server. So you can go here and I can click on import database and I can import it from here. Are you clear, Shivendu? Cool. Can I go for the next one? Cool. Thanks, Shivendu. Thanks for responding. Well, the next one that we have here, okay, we have done with all these things. Rakesh, what, why? Come again, please. What's your question? Rakesh, you have any questions? Sorry, means for next slide. Okay, those slides were all the one which we are working, Rakesh. This is about importing. So it's about importing the database, and you can check the history. Once when you import it, you can check the history on import and export history. Okay, you can go here. I will close this. On your SQL Server, you can scroll down. See, we have the databases, right? You get those things, and you can also check the history that should be available here. See, we have import and export history. From here, you can check it. Is that okay? Cool then. Yeah. Well, so the next one that we have here is about scaling the Azure SQL database. Scaling is where you go up with the elastic pools. Okay, you have the database pools which we have already configured, and we call it as elasticity. Okay, we have the database, and you do elasticity here, and you do the scaling. I mean, very combining the multiple databases when there's huge sort of unpredictable demands that comes across towards your database. The database in an elastic pool or available on a Azure SQL database server, and it shares the set number of resources, like you call it as eDTUs at the set price. When it goes higher, it does the pooling and it shares the resource. The elastic pools in the Azure SQL database will enable the SaaS developers to optimize the price performance for a group of database within the budget which will be delivered over here. Okay. So you can go here, you have the elastic pools, and you can configure for the SaaS applications that you do. This I have already spoke to you by the time I configure the DTUs, but still, you can do this provisioning to save the cost. Okay, instead of deploying an individual database to sustain for the workloads, you can just put up this, and that can work for the loads. It can combine together, it can do the pooling, and it can sustain the work demands. So your Elastic Pools has a built-in intelligence. You can do it from the scratch if you know the pool setup. You have already configured it. I hope you have done that. Or you can start with the recommendation service. When you put up the service now, you will come up with a basic as default if it is empty one. Or if you have something as you have high competition on the database, then it will come up with the pools that it recommends that you need to go with that as such. So those things you can do it here. To create an elastic pool, you can go for new pool on the server from your SQL servers. Okay. And you can click on new pool and you can configure it. So in the server, I can show you here. This is the server that we have. And you can find we have new pool. You can click here. You can name the pool here. I'll say CodeSizzler, new pool again. Excuse me. Yeah. So here we have the configuring the pool. You can say, see, this is the intelligence. Okay. This is the intelligence that it works. Depends upon the server one. Now you can say you can make it as a reserve one or you can go for the basic one. You can click on apply and you can get it created. Pin to the dashboard, click on OK and it will get created now. So there goes the pooling which gets created now, the new pooling. Okay. Hope you can find it here. Whatever the database that you have, it gets the pooling to be done with the recommendation. Okay. So get a new pool. This is the old image, but now we have it as basic stand. It's same, but we have the UI alone as a different one. You can choose the pricing tier and then you can configure the pool. Once when the pool is configured, you can add the databases. So once when this is done, inside this, you can add the databases. The next we have the performance settings. For the pool, you can configure the performance settings where it can go with the DTUs, all those things. And you can also manage and monitor the elastic pool. The managing and monitoring the elastic pool is done using the Azure portal itself. You can monitor the utilization of the Elastic pool and the databases that are available within the pool. You can also make a set of changes to the Elastic pool and you can submit the changes at the same time. The changes that you will have will include adding the database or removing the database, and it also has the Elastic pool settings which will change the database settings. To monitor an Elastic pool, you can create a database on the pool. You can configure the pool, and once when you configure, you will get the Elastic monitoring pool over there. There you can manage the resource utilization, you can get the chart, all those things. It's getting deployed. I will show you on the database. You can go here for the database, you can scroll down, you can find the database size, all these things. And to monitor it, you can scroll down. You should find, give me a sec. Yes, you have the resource health. See, you can check it from here. You get the resource health. Okay, you get the performance overview on the chart for the database. I mean, there is no huge workload, so we don't have any performance until now. You can put up the recommendations here as well. And for security, you can go for alerts and you can configure the security. Okay, so let's work on that. I will complete the slides and then I will come there. I will work on it. So here we configure the metrics, all these things. We will work on this. It's about adding the alerts. So you can go up here and let's click the database and you can scroll down. You can find we will have alerts here. You can select alerts and you can add the alert here. Select the database here and add the alert. I'll say alert 1. This is a demo alert. Metrics: when the CPU percentage goes greater than 1 threshold for the last 5 minutes, email for the owner and email for the admin as well. So you can click on OK and that will take the action. Right, so there we go, that it configures the rule. Here we have the elastic pool, and in this elastic pool you can see we have the resource, we have the storage utilization, all these things. So that's about the performance. And adding the database, you can click on create database and you can add it here. I'll say db new and you can select the source, blank database. You have the collation, you can click pin to dashboard and you can click on OK where it will get added up. So now inside the pool, you're adding the new database. So there we go up with adding and removing the database. You can configure the pool and you can add it across. Okay, you can select the database and you can add it across. And the same, you can move the database or you can even delete the database. Here we are moving the database of the elastic pool and you can change the performance settings, the DTUs, all those things from the configure pool. See, here we have the configure pool. You have configure pool here. From here you can change it. Okay, you can change for basic or standard, whatever you need. Right? And you can also manage the jobs, that you can do it from here. The jobs that you have in the cloud service, the SQL database. Okay, those things can be done here. And for this also you can configure the alerts. Okay, and for security you can go for the database. You can configure the security at this one. You have threat detection here. Yeah, see, here we have alerts, auditing and threat detection. You can enable this, the server level auditing. You can go here and you can enable it. See, you can set on threat detection to be on. It stores on a storage account of whatever happens there. Same like what you did for the diagnostics on the storage account, okay, for virtual machine. So by that we come to the end. Any questions before summarizing it? Hey guys, are you there? Cool. Uh, no questions. Okay. Shwendu, I hope you're clear. Rakesh, Shwendu, and there's this. Cool then. Thanks, Jabraj. Yeah, thanks for responding. Well then, as a summary, here we go. We were discussing about classifying the different SQL database types that we had. I mean the database tiers, and we were also speaking about configuring the Azure SQL database, configuring and performing the point-in-time recovery geo-replication, importing and exporting the data and schema, scaling the Azure SQL database as well, and finally with the monitoring, alerts, all those things. Please do write for support at edureka.co if you have any questions. And before you turn off, I guess Shubhendu was working on all the things, and others who have also worked on the same. Please go here and delete the database which you have created. Okay, you have plenty of resource. It will cost you a lot. Click on delete resource group and delete the database, please. Okay, the entire resource group you can delete it. We are not going to use this for the next session, so you can delete it. Hi Rakesh, could you please summarize the lab overview once again? Sure, Rakesh. The very first thing that we were doing is we were creating a SQL database on Azure. Okay, so you were going for new SQL database, or I'll show this. This should be helping you. I will share this document as well to you guys. Mm, yeah, over here. Yes, I'll share this document with you people. Okay, so this speaks about how you can put up a database, all those things. So you are creating a SQL database, okay, using the Azure portal, and you are configuring the DB name, the resource group, the elastic pool for that, the pricing tier, all these things. And once when you did that, you will be configuring the firewall, okay. See, we are configuring the firewall here. You can click on add firewall and you can add the firewall here. So that adds the firewall. Then you can go for Visual Studio. You can go for Server Explorer, and you can add the connection where you can add the connection as such. Okay, so here you get the details and you add the connection on your Visual Studio, and you can find the database which has been added up here. So that's one demo which we were performing, and the another one was of the database recovery. Okay, the database recovery is where we go for the DB, and from the DB you set the point in time recovery. Okay, and you will set up policy when it has to recover. So those things we were doing across, and followed by that we were working with the pooling, where we create a separate pool for each and everything. And next was your geo replication. The geo replication is where you configure the primary data center and the secondary data center region. Whenever there's some failover, it gets replicated for the secondary one to the primary one. And the next one that we were working across over there was about the diagnostic settings that you do and configuring the alerts. When someone tries to do some anonymous access of data or some SQL injection is trying to occur, then you can configure the alerts and monitoring. Okay, so those were the things, and we were also configuring an IaaS part with SQL Server Management Studio to connect with your database which we have created here. Okay, so that was all the thing that we were working across. And for sharing the document, I will give you the link. You can go for this exam 7532 for Deloitte. I have a folder called SQL Database, and from here you can get the things. So I'm sharing this link for you. So we have the complete database there, Rakesh. Okay, about the database over there. Download that and try working on it. Okay, I hope all have received the link. Sushita, it was actually for you. You were asking for the documentations. Okay, so please make sense for the SQL DB from there. Any questions, Rakesh? Okay, cool then. Well, by that we come to the end for today. Any questions on yesterday's one? I hope we had Kishore who was handling for yesterday. Any questions from that from web apps? Well, I hope there were no questions then. Okay, if you at all, if you have any questions, please write for support@edureka.co. Okay. Hi, Sujita. Logic app was not covered. Okay. Is it? I'll check that, Sujita. If it was not covered, I will try to make it by the next one. Okay. It is 5:32, I guess, and I'm not sure whether you have Logic app for that. But still, I will check it. Okay, if it is not covered, then I will check the video recording also, and then I will make it by the next session. Is that okay? Cool. And Shuvendu, hi. I saw your feedback by yesterday. Okay. I mean, if you have any clarifications or you need to discuss something like that, please do let us know. Okay. I can even get in touch with you. You can discuss with me regarding the web apps or any part of the things that we have covered. Anybody. Okay. If you want to discuss something, please let me know. We can schedule it and we can make it as such. Cool then. Well, by that, we can sign off for the day. And thank you so much for joining. See you guys by next weekend again. Please do fill the feedback forms before you sign off, right? That will be helping us a lot. And thanks once again for joining us. Thank you.